Hello everyone, Dobry din. This is Zlata from CRS with episode 4 of Rusyn Culture, Art and Cuisine. Today, my guest is an engineer, also the creator of a very interesting and popular YouTube channel. Please welcome Mr. Marko Lyszyk, the American Lemko. Thank you so much for coming here today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. My first question is, can you please tell us about yourself and your family?
Sure. So I grew up born and raised in New Jersey, central New Jersey, but my parents, they were born in Poland and they came over to America sometime in the 1980s. My dad came around early 80s. My mom came late 80s. But they came from a part of Poland, the northern part of Poland, but their parents were not from there as well. Their parents, meaning my grandparents, they were actually born in southeastern Poland, in the Bieszczady, Beskid Niskie, Carpatho mountains, and right after World War II, my grandparents and their relatives, they were forcibly resettled from the southeastern part of Poland to the northwestern part of Poland, where my parents eventually grew up through Akcja Wisła.
You created more than 40 incredibly interesting YouTube videos on language, food, traditions, and history. How did you come up with an idea of your first video? What was your expectation then?
I guess I can answer this question in two parts. I guess you could split up into two phases. The first phase is specifically, it was my first set of videos, and they were strictly learning the language. Now, growing up, and until today, as a hobby, I like learning languages, learning like accents or dialects. So I really like linguistics. So I also want the Lemko language to survive. So I was trying to figure out a way to help other people learn Lemko, especially since for English speakers, there's not a lot of resources to learn Lemko, especially at the time when I started the videos. And whatever sources they were in Polish or Ukrainian. And for Americans, learning Lemko and knowing only English, that might be too much of it might demotivate, if that's a word. Like it will not necessarily give them motivation or kind of deter them. So I just wanted to kind of facilitate that and make it easier for them to learn the language. Now, the other set of videos I have is they're not necessarily strictly the language, but it's more of I guess a cultural, like history-based set of videos. Now, in these videos, after I did a few years of the first few language videos, I did some self-reflection. I'm like, I had this thought, and I also talked it with, I remember my brother and a few Lemko friends in Poland and like a fellow YouTuber too. And it seemed to me that it became necessary to not just showcase teach people the language, but also what it means to be Lemko. And part of this that's when we started to get the ideas to tell about the history, especially on this side of the Atlantic, and also tell about like what kind of food we do, and like and how to even make the food, and just like and different things that are part of the culture that I think it's valuable to know. And so I just want to put that out and available for people.
Your language videos are so good. How did you learn the language?
So I'll say my base was at home, though we didn't, to be fair, I don't think we really spoke 100% Lemko at home. We spoke a mix of English, Polish, Ukrainian, and Lemko. I mean, the joke I always say is like, if you want to 100% understand everything that goes on in our household, you have to know at least 4 languages. But let's see, there's a few things. One is to start off, lemko.org, the website lemko.org by Walter Maximovich helped a lot. It has like a lot of dictionaries out there, so I would learn just maybe a few words at a time, and then also talk with my parents, and also talk with older relatives who are native speakers of Lemko. And I'm like, oh, is this like how you would say it, or is that where you would use this word or that word? I would also like learn. I'd also watch videos on YouTube where there's video of like interviews with native speakers, so then you get to kind of hear how Lemko is supposed to be spoken, and like all that all together kind of gave me a good base, and I could keep on. Then I could improve my knowledge of Lemko. Then I would be able to get more confident speaking Lemko, and then eventually I could I could buy like books in Lemko and then read them, and then that's how it went for me.
What are your suggestions for our language learners? What is the best way to learn a language?
Sure. Now, for this, I always, maybe because it's my personality, but I always like to learn the grammar. But I've also heard, growing up, I was, especially from my mom and from like other people who learned another language, they were suggesting that I don't necessarily focus at grammar, at least at the very beginning. Me being stubborn at the time, of course, I didn't want to do that. But now thinking about it, the best is, my suggestion is what is based off what they also tell me. One is try and focus on the pronunciation, and then second is just get vocab, learn as much vocab as you can, and then the grammar will like sort itself out as you progress with your knowledge of the language. But one thing that I like to use is, if I'm learning a language and say pronunciation is, I can pronounce the words correctly, but if I want to actually learn what the individual words mean and increase my vocabulary, what I'll do is and I'll try and use words that I will use most often. So for example, if I'm walking and I always see my refrigerator, then I'm going to learn the word for refrigerator. And I'll say, and every time I point it, I walk past it, I'm going to point at it, and whether I'm saying it out loud or in my head, I'm going to say what the word refrigerator is in the other language. So kind of make it more, kind of approach it at a practical angle. And what was the other thing? Oh, and also, this might sound, maybe this sounds different or anything, but also for people who want to learn a language, don't be afraid to just even talk to yourselves in another language. Sometimes when I'm learning want to learn a language, but I want to practice on my speech, or like practice putting my sentences together, I'll be driving in a car, and instead of listening to music or the radio, I'll just try and have a basic conversation to myself. So for anyone learning another language, I definitely recommend going that route.
Sounds awesome. How do you do your research for the videos?
Okay, so for my videos, there's a few things that is involved. One is, I think one of the main things is, if I'm going to do more of a history base, like going to a different, like a city, then what I'll start off with, I'll go into, there's two Facebook groups that I'm involved with. One is Lemko Rusyns and Friends, and the other one is the Carpatho-Rusyns Everywhere. And essentially what I'll do is I'll go in the search bar within each of those groups. And if, say, I'm going to, I want to go to Pittsburgh and I want to find out the Lemko Rusyn community history over there, then I would just type what I'm looking for in the search bar, and there'll be like a bunch of like results coming that other people have posted, and then I can review that. I also for like visiting cities, this one man, Rich Custer, he's very involved with history of the Lemko and Rusyn communities in America, so he was a valuable resource. I also talked to I would talk to other people who involved in other cities. And for example, Marianne Stivak and Dean Paloka in Pittsburgh, they were very helpful for my Pittsburgh trip. And also, one thing I found really interesting was there is a Lemko Association website, and on there's a link to an archives of art. It's a link to archives of different publications that were made from like beginning of the 1900s to just before the 2000s, I believe. And these are publications made from various Lemko and Rusyn organizations. So one of them being the Lemko Association of USA and Canada. And from there, you can find actual articles that were, say, for example, from the 1950s and 60s. And you could find a lot more information in there that you might not be able to find going on Google nowadays. So they definitely were valuable resources for my videos. And also, but that's just for the history and going to the different cities. There's also now if I'm doing other types of videos, for example, like cooking or more of like traditions, then I would just also I could use the internet, but also I make good use of my family and my relatives because they have a lot of knowledge that should be passed on, like other families.
Oh, sounds really interesting. Thank you. What cities do you plan to visit next for your YouTube channel videos?
Yes, so the next one on the list is a small little town, or maybe big town, really small city. It's called Manville in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. So that's the next one. But other cities, some other cities I'm planning on going to is Jersey City, Bayonne, and Passaic. I might go to also some of the cities in, I believe it's in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. I haven't pinpointed which ones exactly, but I also want to go to some of the cities and communities in Eastern Pennsylvania, because I've done a video about Pittsburgh and Western Pennsylvania. Now it's time to do Eastern Pennsylvania and, the coal mining area. Mm-hmm. And I just recently actually found out that there's a community out, a Lemko Rusyn community out in Minnesota. So I might even go there.
Wow, sounds interesting. Thank you. What Lemko traditions does your family observe? Which holiday do you like the most?
So some of the traditions that we observe are, for example, for Christmas, we'll have like a Święty Wieczór, like a Holy Supper, where we'll have like a hay that will and we'll put the hay underneath the tablecloth. We'll have a like Lemko Rusyn dish, bobalki. Those are I really like bobalki. Well, like other like Lemko Rusyn food, like soup, like different soups and pierogi, pierogies. And we'll also like wash right before dinner. We'll have a bowl that people like, a ceremonial bowl, I guess you can call it, and people like will wash their hands and face for it right before dinner. We'll pass around a piece of like a special bread that my babcia makes, my grandmother, and she puts honey and a piece of garlic in. No one can eat the other food until everyone passes that bread around. So, and then I think that this is one of my favorite part of that Christmas traditions is that my babcia or my mom, who's ever hosting, they'll basically take the honey. They'll have like a little bit of the honey, and then they'll put it on like everyone's faces, so they'll be, I guess, sweet for the whole next year.
Oh, that sounds sweet. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. And I have to ask you this question. Yeah. What is your favorite Lemko meal that your mom and grandma make?
Sure. Now, this is a tough one. This is either going to be bobalki or mastyło.
Oh.
Now, I really like bobalki, but for me, we only really eat that for Christmas. So I'll say, okay, that's So I would say I would go with Mastilla just because I can eat that any time of the year. And if there's Mastilla on the stove, then I'm going to eat it. So yeah, I'll go with Mastilla.
How do you make mastillo? What do you put in there?
So basically you could take we call it bilisir, but in America we'll call it, I think it's like farmer's cheese.
Mm-hmm.
We put about like a block of farmer's cheese, which is about like 200 grams. You put you put an egg and some flour. And you mix it all up and you put it on a pan. You put it on a pan and you let that cook. And I guess like one way you could think of it is like the Lemko fondue. It's kind of like it's like a mixture that you put that you could put on bread and put like onions or bacon on it too and eat it. It's like a spread.
Wow, that sounds really tasty. Okay, and my last question is, what are your plans for future?
I don't plan on doing the videos long term, though. I mean, I do want to make some videos when it's like visit the Rusyn community in northern Serbia and Vojvodina, and also go to Ukraine to Carpatho to make some videos there, and also Slovakia as well. As I already did one in Southeast in Lemkovin last year. But besides making videos, my future plans, other than the videos, are focused on doing maybe more workshops, in the sense that if there, say for example, in order for, we have like certain Lemkos and Rusyns, they have certain particular wedding traditions that they do. So one of the things we could do is we'll have a workshop and everyone could come in and we'll learn, and then I could go over, and with the help of other people, we can teach people how to conduct certain Lemko Rusyn wedding traditions. So those traditions can get passed on to the next generation. So people are not necessarily just learning it, but they're also actively participating and keeping it alive.
That sounds interesting. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming here today. It was so nice to talk to you. Okay. Thank you.
It was a good time. Thank you.
This is Zlata from CRS. Our interviews are the best. Thank you so much for watching.